My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. And we're rolling. Welcome, everyone. On today's episode of F.A.T.E, I am bringing you Alysia Marlow. She does DMT Light therapy, and she's here to tell us what it is, how it can help people, and her spiritual journey of how she got there. Welcome, Alysia. Welcome to your F.A.T.E. Welcome aboard. Thank you for taking the time to spend with me today and discuss your DMT light therapy. Why don't we just start talking about what is that? What does it do? Most people have never heard about anything like this, so do tell.
Thank you for asking. I love sharing this. So the DMT Light therapy is the name that has just kind of come up through sharing it because of how it just naturally accesses your brain's ability to release DMT. And I've been doing this for 9 years now, sharing it as much as I can, anywhere I can, all over the country, even globally. And it's so simple. So anyone, as long as you're not a photosensitive and an epileptic, those are the only people that I primarily say, no.
Good note.
Everyone else, if you know that you're comfortable and confident and you read through everything on my waiver, you can do this. So it meets a lot more people right where they are. And simply closing your eyes and the flickering light is strobing at frequencies. So imagine your closed eyes, through your retina of your closed eyes, you're receiving the frequencies. And your brain just wants to follow the light, match the frequencies of its choosing, not all of them. It's like a simple cocktail of a few frequencies. And so right away, your brain just goes on this deep meditative journey, just drops in. And it's like assisted stretching for your brain, because a lot of us have never experienced what it's like to get into that deep state so quickly, let alone sustaining it for a long period of time. And so it's like your brain isn't quite the same afterward because it's just gotten stretched and massaged and opened up, and things are just like it's defragmenting the hard drive in your brain without you having to do anything or know anything. And yet seasoned meditators always explain to me, wow, I didn't think that was going to be so quick. I didn't think that was going to be so effective. Like they had no idea. So it's fun for me because I don't like to tell anyone it's going to do anything. I just say it's going to meet you where you are, and your brain's going to just kind of take in the frequencies like a multivitamin. And if you know anything about multivitamins, when you take in a multivitamin, your body knows what it needs and it kind of ignores and eliminates what it doesn't. So similarly with the frequencies, you're taking in the frequencies, you're matching the ones that you need in that moment, and you create an individual experience every single time based on what you need in that moment. So it's different every single time.
That's fascinating. How did you come across this technology? What is your journey of getting to where you are today?
Well, zipping back to my youth when I was 14, and I was this tomboy, a little badass, and I tried to swim across a lake after eating a sandwich, fully clothed, just ignoring what all the weird warnings that didn't resonate for me. So, well, I grew up going to the high Sierras and jumping in these snow runoff creeks. Never did I try to swim across a lake outlet fully clothed after eating a sandwich. Right. That was new, but I figured I can do this. I'm really fit, and I was a cross-country runner, I was a figure skater, I was a gymnast. I got this, right? So swimming, also I'm a classically trained opera singer, so I know how to use my lungs and my breath. So I'm thinking I got this. If I get tired, I'll just float. And I don't know how far I got when I flipped on my back thinking, oh, I'm kind of tired. And I'm looking up and it's November and this is in California, and blacked out. I had no idea that I just blacked out. And suddenly I was having this whole near-death experience of my past, present, future happening in the same long, extended moment. And the moment I experienced, oh, by the way, I was 14, had not had my first kiss yet.
Were you alone out there? You were alone out there?
No, my best friend.
Okay.
I was on a trip with her, and her parents let me go with her and her uncle, who doesn't have kids and He was kind of the wild uncle. He was known for these things. So he would let us drive his car. I mean, we just did whatever we wanted. It was a blast. And of course, I was never going to tell my mom this happened.
Of course.
I never took another trip. But this is what started everything for me. I experienced a future that hadn't occurred yet. I saw my whole past, my present. And when I saw a husband and a child, that's when I knew I'm no longer swimming. I don't know what's happening, but I want to go back. I do not want to leave unfulfilled with this vision that I've just experienced. And then there was white light everywhere. It was just like I was getting closer and closer to it. And I could sense like being sensing me. And that was when whatever was left of my will, my soul, I said, I want to go back. I want to fulfill that vision. And then the next thing I knew, I heard my friend. She sounded really, really far away. And by the time I was able to open my eyes, she was right in front of me. She was holding me up out of the water and she's screaming in my face, telling me like I'm blue or something. So I guess I blacked out hypothermia. I mean, I was scrawny. I was all muscle and bone. But that moment changed everything for me because it was like the veil never really came back down. And as a young person without the internet, we only had dial-up AOL back then. I just had to go to like Hot Topic and just kind of try to connect some dots myself with books that were available. They had books at Hot Topic. I picked up How to Discover Your Past Lives, like natural Wiccan, like witch stuff, because I was very nature girl. And I was just trying to put all the pieces together. And what I accidentally stumbled upon was meditation through the techniques in the How to Discover Your Past Lives book and found out that I could astrally project. I didn't know what any of this was back then. But people who I knew who had somehow a little more reading material kind of told me what was going on and encouraged me to experiment with things. Flash forward, I move around a little bit after I was 18, come back to California where I was raised, and something tells me to run for a pageant. It was a scholarship pageant. And that started me on the trajectory to find Hawaii. So now I've been in Hawaii and the islands for almost half my life.
Oh, wow.
And when I got here, I just kind of didn't know what I was doing anymore. Thought I was going to go to college, had scholarships and everything. And after 1 week, I said, no, this isn't it. There's something eating at me. And I dropped out, got all the money back, forfeited the scholarships, and started finding my way in the islands. And I was well set up. My mom invested in a property here so that she wouldn't have to lose touch with her oldest daughter. And I didn't even know we had money. So I came from raised poor to, wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's the property like here? Hitting me out to couch surf on my, at the time, boyfriend's mom's couch until I found a place. But I got really, really good in the liquor industry. And after becoming like this top sales rep for Southern Wine and Spirits, and I had previously, so all these years went by of me being a model and then being a hiring manager to manage the models and train them how to go out and do all these events and gigs and promos. And I would get to be like a ring girl and do these things with celebrities. So I went on this whole human matrixy, fashion-y, celebrity kind of journey out here in the islands because it was easy. It was fun. I loved it. It was fulfilling, something I never experienced growing up. And it was always there. Like I could never not sense all the weird spiritual moments that would happen for me to just be like, okay, I remember it's still there. And I got so far into the career world and attached to that money coming in that something had to give. Like I was getting physically like sick. It was so out of alignment. And all of a sudden I had met my fiance. And I'm like, okay, there's this thing I want to do in the jungle called ayahuasca, and it's in Peru, and I want to go there. And he kind of ran all these circles around, like not wanting to get married until he finally proposed. But that was totally off the board. Like, no ayahuasca in the jungle. We don't even have snakes in Hawaii. So to consider going out where they don't speak English in a jungle where there's like wild animals that can sting you, bite you, or eat you alive, he's like, no, hard pass. We're not doing it. So we go South America. We do all the things. And always I'm like, well, I know I'm supposed to do it. And I was bummed. I zipped it. I wanted to meet him where he was at and not like push him or anything. I just wanted to honor him. And a week after we got back, he said, I'm going to call off the wedding. I don't think I'm ready to get married. And my friend calls me and goes, but by the way, that ayahuasca ceremony we were going to have here in Hawaii got postponed. It's in a week. Do you want to come? Mind you, now we're 3 weeks before our wedding. And I said, well, let me know. to my fiance, if we're not getting married, because everything's paid for having a big party, I need to let my family know. They're from Holland and all over the place.
That's crazy.
And I was really proud of myself how I handled this. But ayahuasca, it was just so blatant that it just came to me. I was supposed to do this. So ayahuasca was that opportunity to dive back in and remember what it was that I tried to compartmentalize and put away because it was so scary and too much information when I was 14. And here I am in my late 30s, living in Hawaii. Like, okay, I'm done with corporate world. I actually was still in it at the time, not able to fully separate. And so when I did my first journey, I like the term brutal because I was literally right into the ceremony eating a chicken sandwich. I had no clue what I was getting into.
Interesting.
And I'm reading information all the way there because it came to me so abruptly. I didn't have time to prepare. And I'm spitting out the chicken sandwich as soon as I read
it sounds like you got to prepare your body. And like, I've taken several all roads lead to ayahuasca, I swear. I've taken several journeys too. But anyways, go ahead. Tell me about.
So this is what happened. I go to the ceremony. Instantly, I experience everything that I needed to remember that I'm like, oh yeah. And my fiance, who was totally adamantly against it, the morning of that ceremony goes, you know what? I got nothing to lose. At this point, I'm already going to call off the wedding. Can you see if there's room for me? And I'm thinking, all right, sure. But inside, I'm jumping up and down. Like my inner child's going, oh. And he comes to the ceremony. He's never the same. I married a complete stranger.
Oh,
and
wow.
because afterward, in the morning, he looks at me, of course I'm going to marry you. We've been together in so many lifetimes, waking each other up. So did that ceremony. I knew right away, okay, this is something I want to be able to help people. And somehow, because there was just so much information that wasn't passed on. The shaman didn't speak English. He had a partner that spoke perfect English, was her first language. She was fluent. And yet the information still only trickled out into the community. So many people were not prepared. And it was magical. Like I woke up looking around, not that I slept at all. So it's more like coming out of it. The sun was coming up. I'm looking around going, I am in the movie Avatar. Like this is Pandora. We were in the jungle. We were on sacred land owned by a Hawaiian woman who invited us to be there to do this ceremony. And it was just so profound that he wanted to go back a week later. Oh, and wow. I'm going, I got everything I needed. Oh, crap. So I began my journey of learning what to do, what not to do in regards with ayahuasca. And he started seeking online. He couldn't go back to his life as a personal trainer.
Oh, wow.
He really quickly knew he was supposed to be something else and eventually discovered he was supposed to be a wizard. And I didn't even know what that meant. So I just was like, okay, we're going to put a pin in it for later and I'm going to do my thing. But I became this person who decided I'm going to coordinate these ceremonies. I'm going to bring the shamans here. I'm going to make sure I consult with people so that they know what they're getting into. I'm going to ask the shaman for all of their data and their information. And I would spread that awareness. I would get full medical history disclosures and just fully make sure people knew what they're getting into. So the only people that came to the ceremonies I coordinated were the ones that were comfortable, confident, knew what they're getting into, and could be safe knowing that I had done the same thing to kind of vet everybody that was coming in. So everyone was safe on all sides.
You know, there's a lot of, there's a lot of fear around doing ayahuasca or doing anything that's going to give you that kind of lifting the veil, whether it be a mushroom trip or whatever. But, you know, for people that are wondering, what advice can you give anybody that's thinking about doing a plant medicine journey, whether it be they're seeking physical, mental healing or whatever their purpose be? What advice can you give them as far as tamping down the level of fear that people have around these types of plants?
I guess it's like anything important enough in life, if you're willing to risk it and not overlook whatever of your own inner guidance that's coming up. Because, you know, there's the body, the autonomic responses to the fear and things that want to keep us safe and keep us contained in that same pattern that we don't quite break free of unless we have some option presented to us that resonates. So not the thing for everybody. So everyone's got to ask questions. Just ask enough questions because you don't want to be that person sitting in the ceremony on the most uncomfortable, noisy thing that you picked up because you were so ill prepared. And it's like just to be comfortable so you can drop in, taking care of those physical things like your needs, knowing the things that are going to be your specific needs. Um, and then ask enough questions and bring more than you think you'll need and leave it in your car if you don't need it, if you get the opportunity to do it somewhere nearby. If you're going and doing the thing and you're committing, like you'll be fine. They got you. But just ask questions.
Yeah.
These are the things I noticed people afterward were saying, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know I could ask for another cup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
any experience with your intuition, start to play with
Yeah.
trusting the little weird impulses that try to drive us, to try to get the ego to repattern.
Yep.
And play with it and see what results you get just leading up to making that decision. So that when you get the little pings, I call them, you get the ping, if it's in your heart or in your guts, if they're in communication with each other, that's a really good practice to be in, to make sure that you're not getting yourself into something that you're going to have to see a lot of people afterward to get yourself out of.
Yeah.
Setting's important.
Oh, yes.
You want to know a bit about who is coming to serve you medicine. Where did the medicine come from? Whose hands did it touch? What did it take to get there? And who is helping coordinate these, facilitate these, like the lineage, whoever's the head shaman, like above everybody. I'm forgetting the names right now, all the special terms, because I first started with the Shipibo tradition, and yet this shaman was very divergent. So he kind of gave us the medicine and then was like, okay, you guys are good. I'll come back when you need me. Whoa. So I had never experienced, there were so many people in that room that were new and that a few that were there that did it a lot. So I guess he figured they got them and they were giggling and dancing. And I thought, I'm in the fetal position. I had a lot to detox. So ask questions, know that diet is important and it won't be most likely as physically painful. If you've already done the prep diet-wise, you probably won't even have physical pain if you've been taking care of yourself and the toxins and things are out of your system.
It's interesting you say that because when I went with a friend and I've been on my own healing journey for a decade. It's kind of why I'm doing this podcast, to bring things like this to the surface. And my spiritual journey really did start with plant medicine, because once your veil lifts up a little bit, you can't help but move in that direction. You can try and not, but I have never, started pulling myself immediately after my first ceremony. But I will say at that point within my illness, I had been detoxing for many, many months at that point. So I was one of the only people in the ceremony that didn't purge because I was already on that similar strict diet for so long because I was dealing with all kinds of other issues that required my diet to be very clean. So I never purged, which I was grateful for because I don't like purging. Yes. But anyways, go ahead.
Important. I just tell everybody, do it your way. Because your way is unique to you. It's your special recipe for your own journey. This is what your soul mixed with the DNA you chose came to experience. So you have to do it your way. And yet, like, discerning when people present all these projections to you, is it coming from a place of they're meeting where you are and they're listening? Or are they just kind of telling you what they've maybe read and they think they know now? So that's why I say play with your intuition and just having the conversation inside yourself, within yourself, before opening up to all those other pieces.
I think that is great advice, because if you do sit with yourself and listen to that interior intuition, that is almost always the direction you should be going in. But so from ayahuasca ceremonies to
so from there to the light. So I actually did 14 ayahuasca ceremonies in total that I can remember. Twice pregnant. And so I have one ayahuasca baby. And what I discovered is so I did get married. I'm no longer married. And yet at the time, he started to do a lot of searching online, trying to connect the dots for his visions. He was sketching a lot of things that were coming true later. And he reached out to Dolores Cannon, one of her top students for past life regression hypnotherapy. was this woman, Cian, and her partner, Richard, and they were based in Perth, Australia. And he reached out to her because someone had posted about their session with her, and it just had all these resonant things coming up for him where he needed to reach out to her. And flash forward, she's sitting next to me in the car in Maui, and she looks at me and she goes, I thought he was a nutcase. So I replied just to see what would come back. And when he replied, his response right away, I knew, no, he's not a nutcase. Like, I need to connect him with my partner, Richard. So they started doing these Skype conversations for a couple months. And one day he says to my, at the time, husband, oh, you should be working with the lamp. So matter of fact, like, we're supposed to know what the heck that means. And when it was new to watch YouTube on your television, that's when my, at the time, husband pulls up YouTube and he goes, we're going to watch this YouTube video. I've never seen you so giddy. What is going on? And it was just the video of CN explaining their full story and their connection with how this lamp was created, how they were involved. And they didn't show it. They didn't demo it, nothing. But I kind of knew halfway through it. My intuition was screaming at me. My inner child was going, we're getting one. I don't even know what the heck this thing is. They're just talking about a blinking light that was created by Austrians, neurologist, psychiatrist, that they were fascinated with NDEs. Boom, there it was. They were fascinated with near-death experiences. They figured out how to put this light together, and it was creating results beyond what science can measure or explain.
Oh, I love everything about this story.
I knew I had to have one. There weren't any in Hawaii. There was one woman who had Alysia, which they were the top distributors of. That's the $25,000-ish price range for that light. And they helped make sure that a second version was created after that one was extensively studied and taken apart. And in the UK, they knew a person who was able to create a new light that was going to be portable and reach more people, fraction of the price point. Obviously not the beautiful Lucia. And yet that light is the light that I was able to afford on my budget of having left the corporate world and knowing that I was going to do something else. And it was going to be more like connecting people that were like me to this, ayahuasca. And yet I was instantly transitioning out of ayahuasca, realizing that my mom, she Googled ayahuasca and started freaking out on me. She never knew that I did it with my son in my belly, but she really would have freaked out. She's just like, you can't be bringing these shamans with their drugs. You're going to get in jail, put in jail. You're a mom. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't even know I did it with him in my belly. But I'm like, you're not wrong, Mom. You're not wrong. And I want something I can share with my mother.
Yeah.
So I got my whatever check from the government for my final pay and went, great, I'm going to use this to buy this light. There's all my money.
Yeah.
Take it. I want one. I don't know what it does, but I just started 9 years ago. It took months to reach me too from the UK.
Wow.
By the time I did, playing around with it, the first 4 minutes I sat in front of my light, I went right back to the place I went before I went into the white light.
Oh my God.
And after that I went, how am I going to tell anybody what this does? I don't want to freak them out, but it's that beautiful, limitless in-between space before the light. And that's right away I went, okay, I have something so
special
here. This thing, I have to just share it. I didn't know how to explain it back then. I just invited friends, come do this thing. It meditates you using flickering light. Close your eyes and listen to music. That's what we're going to do.
I mean, I'm just so my audience knows, I did experience this. I did a small version of a group meditation with her. I went to a fair and was in a hall with a bunch of other people, and we did it. And when you put the light on me, I personally started seeing lots of orange and reds and kaleidoscopy kind of like looking colors. I also saw a very bright light that was about this thick, and it was like super white, silver white. It almost looked like an angel or something was standing in front of me, but I didn't have any real definition other than that it was a light, just a light standing there. You get, I don't know if you'd call them downloads or people talking to you, or it's your own voice. I don't know, but I like to feel sometimes it is my higher self or my intuition. But I had a knowing of that was like one of my angels or something like that. I had like, which is why after the small meditation, I went and found you in the hall. And I remember I was the one that kept on saying, "Are you ready yet?" And I would keep coming back, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go home and walk my dog real quick. I'll come back." You're like, "Okay, great, come back." And then finally, I think you were getting ready to shut down, and I poked my head back over there. I was like, "Is there anybody here? Can I do it yet?" And you're like, "Oh my God." And I think it was one of the last sessions you did for the night. I
Yeah.
barely snuck one in, but I waited for hours, checking in
You
with
were
you.
supposed to be there
Yeah. I mean, it is,
in that session.
that's,
Mhm.
the second time I sat for the longer time, and it was even more intense. I mean, it was amazing, and I want to do it again. So
Yeah.
when you're in LA again at a fair or anything, like, oh, please let me know if I'm ever coming your way. And this may be
Absolutely. I
something.
put my schedule on Instagram.
Oh, good. I definitely want to do it again. And it's one of the reasons as soon as I experienced that, I was really hoping you would be a part of the podcast, because I feel like this is something that this is beyond, like, I've never heard of anything like that until sat with you. I really feel like this could really transform people in a way that's even better than doing an ayahuasca ceremony, because there is a ton of fear around plant medicine and having to go into the jungle and sitting with a shaman just to have experience that may or may not impact you positively. Some, not every ayahuasca journey is bliss. Some are hard and darker, and all kinds of things can happen when you're seeing yourself out there in the plant medicine world. But I think this is just incredible. I would even think about purchasing one.
You're
I would, personally.
glad I sell them. I get them
I
out to
mean,
people. And my favorite thing is after all these years and 9 years, I have so much, like a wealth of experiences that I can share tips with you of things that you maybe hadn't realized you could do with this. Like I have a backup battery pack. I hiked this thing up to Haleakala on Maui, hiked it up to Mount Shasta, and I have facilitated sessions for the people that were with me using it that way.
that's
I've
incredible.
done it with sound healers where we collaborated. We had gongs, we had bowls, we had chimes, we had ocean dubs. Just I sing, I channel. I didn't know these were things that were going to come out. They just come out organically with everyone that just shows up. And so there's so many ways to experience it. And yet, yeah, now I just like to buy a set of zero gravity chairs for every state I travel to. And then I either donate them or I give them to a friend. And I try to hook up. I have wires I can hook up. And this is the only light you can sync vibration with the sound. So I can actually turn a zero gravity chair into a vibroacoustic sound bed that syncs with the light. And I have people coming to me going, "Oh my gosh, I took a microdose today. Is that okay?" I'm like, yes, that's highly recommended, actually, because that's going to combine with your DMT. That psilocybin, that little bit of psilocybin with your DMT becomes this beautiful portal to opening you up to more information in the most gentle way. And as soon as you open your eyes, you're back.
And it is transformative. You really don't ever look through the same lens once you have these experiences. You just don't. It changes you foundationally. It's hard to explain unless you experience, though. I encourage as many people as possible to get out of your comfort zone and lift the veil and make that transformation. But at the end of the day, everybody's got their own path, and everybody has their own comfort level, and everybody has their own journey. And not everybody.
Yeah. So I always choose your way, question everything,
Yeah.
choose the path that's best for you, and then reevaluate it if you're still like, because we're all changing and evolving, and
Yes, we are.
so should our
What do you have any amazing stories to tell from the light therapy, through a client, through yourself? What kind of
Yes.
experiences you really can have?
I would say the I'll tell you 3 in particular, because the first one was just the very first person I invited to try the light. I didn't know how I was going to share it yet. So I thought, well, how about a dark room? And I live in Hawaii. So it's hard to find a dark room. So it was literally the bathroom. It was the only room that was dark during the day. So I set her up. She's sitting on the toilet with the lid down, and I set up the light for 4 minutes, just a 4-minute demo. And within 2 minutes, I hear her screaming. So I come in and, what's the matter? Oh, I didn't know which way was up. So she grabbed the walls and was like, went, okay. So are you okay? She goes, yeah. So I put her for another 4 minutes. I step out. I come back. She's bawling. I said, now what happened? She says, well, I'm going for an interview, for a job interview when I get home. She was visiting from Northern California. She goes, I was there home after, and I already had the job. Like, she time traveled to the moments after she already had the job and she was home. She did get the job. Oh, so she was just crying. Like, she couldn't believe that just happened in 4 minutes, sitting on my toilet in the dark bathroom under the blinking light for 4 minutes. I'm going, okay. So the next friend I invited to try it, he is a personal development speaker and coach for many, many years. I'm trying to remember. It wasn't with Psy Seminars. It was the one before that, Landmark. And so he comes and he's thinking, oh, okay, I did my research. I want to go in and get as much out of this as I can, because he's all about working on himself. So he does 3 sessions in a 7-day period. And on the 3rd session, my little gut is like, go take pictures. And by this time, I had ordered a blackout tent that goes over a mattress for people who sleep during the day. But I put it on the floor, put some mats and pillows inside, set up the light inside, and zipped it halfway. And I went and took some pictures. And I look at the pictures before a session is done. And I see something. This is with my cell phone. And I'm going, what the? And I go through the pictures, and each subsequent photo, there's something materializing in the middle of the tent that shouldn't be there. And I run to my husband and I show him, and he's in his office. And he, who has barely cussed more than I can, he hadn't even cussed on one hand that many times. And he starts going, what the? Holy. It was my friend's face hovering above him, looking down at his body in the tent. I still have this to this day. I'm never going to erase it. I have captured photos of him out of his body looking at himself. And after that session, I show him thinking, I'm just freaking out. I can't wait to show him. He just goes, oh yeah, will you send that to me? Just like he knows what he was doing. And wow, my mind is blown. I didn't know you could.
Incredible.
I still to this day try to remember to like have that somewhere safe where I can charge it and show somebody, like, look, and don't tell them what to look for. Just show them so they see it on their own. That to me is the most special thing.
I am fully under the impression that we don't have everything all figured out, and there's so much out there that we don't know. And we are so much more than what we think we are. And there's so much more going on spiritually and consciously. And it's amazing that you have this ability to show people, to lift the veil and give them that experience that they would never have otherwise. Like, it's really amazing. Now, are you recruiting other people to do this for a living? Because, like, the more, the better,
Encourage everybody. Like, this is a huge, very tangible extension of what it is you're here to do. And the moment people connect with this and realize that this is an easy tool, anyone can learn how to use it, and then just sharing it, it's like you learn to speak the language of what this thing can do. Just from the feedback and the shares that I get. I got an email from a young lady. This is the most important one I was waiting to share with you. I got an email from this mother. So this young woman came to see me at a fair. I was big and pregnant. And at the time, I had more than one booth. So I had a 10 by 10 canopy tent set up for groups of people, because I had been doing this in the community so much that everyone was bringing their friends and sending their loved ones. So I didn't know how many people were just connected and related that were getting sent to me. And I was fully booked at this fair for groups of people that were joining each other, didn't even know each other. And they're laying head to head under this light in my tent, obviously pre-COVID. And this young lady walks up, and she's like, can I do this? I said, yeah, I'm fully booked. However, I bet I can squeeze you in. So I asked this group, and they were open to her joining them. They were all friends. And so she didn't know them. So she does a 15-minute journey with complete strangers. And something, and I didn't do this very often back then, something guided me, and the impulse again, maybe because I was big and pregnant, I was feeling it stronger. I had that extra mom sense. And I could take off my necklace and I'm doing a little energy clearing around her. I could just feel like something needed to be done. I call it energy housekeeping. I can kind of feel when somebody has something that's coming up that needs to be helped, swept back into the light. I call it the metaphorical toilet paper on your shoe. I help kind of get all that stuff, pull that stuff off, and then do away with it, like take it to the light. So I bring everyone back from 15 minutes, but she's still in it, this young lady. So I told the other woman, and they were all young women. I said, she's still in it. We're going to leave her be. I'm going to go back to her. So I went back. And when she was finally ready to come back, because I do this little like coming back spiel just to kind of see if they're ready, if they even can hear me, if they're even close by and they're with their soul connected to their body. And she's crying. And then she looks at me and I'm just waiting for her to say something. She says, I just had a near-death experience under the light. And all of the bad things that have happened to me since I was 2 were revealed to me by these angel beings. And she says, they took it out of me and they said, you're healed. And then they took it with them and they went back into the light. And I am just like quiet, dead quiet. And this woman walks up, who's one of my clients. It's her mother. I had no idea this woman had this grown person for a child. This young woman was actually 17. I thought she was an adult. And her mother sent me this huge long email about a week later thanking me, saying her daughter had been abducted, missing for 5 months. She had been drugged and sex trafficked and had no recollection of anything or anyone that was involved with what had happened to her. And it had stunted her social development. And she just seemed like this adult person on the outside. And her mother thanked me. She says, we tried everything holistic when we got her back. We just felt like so strongly that holistic was the approach. And her mother was married to another woman and they were this powerful, they were just one of my favorite powerful couples on the island. I had no idea they had these children from this previous life, yet let alone that this was just a 17-year-old young lady. So years later, I'm here doing a session for 8 women. And the mother, she booked a session with me to revisit right before she left the islands to permanently just relocate and go live in an RV with her wife before her grandchild was born. She says, if my grandchild's born, I'm going to get stuck here. But this is the same daughter. The daughter that I saw years ago when I was pregnant. She says to me, she starts bursting into tears in front of these 8 women she doesn't know to tell them the story of how this light in 15 minutes helped her daughter reset and heal from such extreme trauma. She says, we didn't even know that she had been abused at 2 years old. And she had all that awareness come to her in that moment in the light where she was able to process it, heal from it. And now she's an advocate. She goes to high schools to talk to young women about sex trafficking. She was a nurse. She has a job. She was expecting her first child. So all these things have transpired since back then. And so to me, that's one of my most like heartwarming reasons why I do this.
That is an incredible, impactful story. Oh my God. I would love to sit with you again. I'm going to be following you on Instagram to try and squeeze another session in with you for sure. Now, was your spiritual awakening kind of began at 14 then, I guess, when you had your near-death experience. And from that, did you feel like it put you on a spiritual path of enlightenment? Or do you feel like it was ayahuasca that really kind of changed the game for you? Were you spiritual as a kid? Is your family an organized religion, or
Great question.
how do you navigate that in your life?
My mother was raised Protestant and she's Dutch, 100%. She had to be the first one to communicate and make everything happen for her family because she was the oldest child. And they immigrated from Holland to Canada to the US. And her first language wasn't even Dutch. It was Frisian. It was a dialect. So for her, she despised so much that organized religion of being made to dress up and go to this Protestant church every Sunday. And she despised it so much. She didn't want to force me into that same way of being. So she said, nope, you figure out, you think for yourself, you do it your own way. And yet she still projected all of what she wanted me to do on me growing up. She just didn't, she kept the religion out of it. So, and that way I was kind of fortunate because it made me kind of just go out and try to seek this stuff because I didn't have it. And I was fascinated by the friends who went to Catholic church every Sunday and the kids who went to the Christian youth groups, and they looked really fun and they had a skateboard ramp and live music. So I started pushing myself to get invited to go to all these different ceremonial ritual practices just to be exposed to it. And I would kind of stick it out until something would ping my intuition where I was like, oh, wait, something about this doesn't feel right. Or there's somebody here that it's like really out of alignment. Like, so I'm like, I guess my nose was sniffing things that didn't quite add up. So I was kind of picking and choosing what felt right and practicing with my own communication with God, because I did find that when I opened up and reached out in my own personal experience, it was like I got answers. Like I truly would get them in a way that I was able to be like, oh, wow, that was like a really fast answer. Oh. So I just trusted it because it felt very pure. And I didn't, if anything, I was trying to bring light into the situation because it was like after I had the near-death experience, beings could sense me. And so I became very like, I was always kind of a little dark creature who loved to dress in rainbows and be that rainbow in the darkness. Yet I also was comfortable in the darkness and being alone. And I liked to be up late at night. Both my parents were insomniacs. So I kind of borrowed that characteristic from both of them because I loved being up at night. And things were up at night that I knew that they were up and they would not hide. And so I got really into like ghost hunting and like just because
Love that.
I just was like, why not? I had a lot of fun. And so there was this gothic side of me who loved rock and roll and metal, especially metal, but I also liked raves and rainbows. So I was very much all the things. And I still am to this day. It just was hard for me to reconcile that like it was all part of one piece that was this oneness that needed to be loved and accepted and not blasted away like a Ghostbuster trying to shine light on the things I didn't comprehend because they scared me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them just having access to dialing me up whenever they chose. So I was very awake and very spiritual young, and yet it was scary. So I went to church to push that stuff away because I wasn't ready for it. So I put it on pause, but I compartmentalized a lot of the good parts of myself by locking away the spiritual parts from the fear of things that I didn't want. I didn't want them to access me to the point where they could maybe take over. Because something happened one day where I meditated on a full moon, not knowing how potent that was, and then couldn't get back in my body because I projected out.
Oh, wow.
And my friend saw me twitching on the ground and she was picking me, same friend that saved me in the lake. Now I'm all like, oh, I'm going to figure out what this is all about. I'm going to meditate on my past lives. And I accidentally left my body and she saw me twitching and she was shaking me and I wasn't coming to. And so that was why I pulled stuff away. I was like, okay, it's too much, too fast. I don't know what to do with this. I'm not ready. I don't want it yet.
Do you have a story to tell about a darker, lower vibrational experience that you had when you were younger, when you were picking up on a darker energy?
Yeah.
It is out there. What can you tell us about your experiences with darker?
I was always fascinated by them, and I preferred horror movies as a 4-year-old to anything else. Like I loved scary movies, and back then we didn't get told what we couldn't watch. And so by the time I was 7, I finally decided to look under my bed. I was tired of being scared of gremlins being under my bed because I had a creaky trundle bed. And so I looked under the bed, and after that, I was like, I'm ghost hunting because they can't scare me. Like I was brave from a very young age, I suppose. And when I had the near-death experience, and then it wasn't like I could just shine a flashlight and maybe not see it. Now it was like I was home alone one day, and I was obviously a teenager after the thing had happened. So I was maybe 15 or 16, and there was still some sunlight, and the sunlight sets a little later in Southern California. I just remember thinking, okay, I'm home alone. It's totally quiet. No windows are open. No air conditioning or anything is on. It's just kind of a regular day. And suddenly, out of my peripheral, I see my door to my bedroom opening. like something was just slowly pushing it open. And I'm turning just as slowly as I'm sensing the thing opening. And there was this black, looked like liquid smoke, like smoke moving through water, floating into my bedroom in broad daylight. And mind you, I've never tried drugs. I'm like sober child. I'm like good girl. Maybe I tried to smoke my friend's mom's cigarette a few times with her because we're like, but I'm just like, that's it. I dropped to the floor in the fetal position as this thing floated into my room. Before it even got within 5 feet of my head, I dropped to the floor in the fetal position, hugged my knees, and just bent over and begged to keep my life because I didn't know what was happening. I thought something's trying to come. It could be, it wants something. I don't know why it's here right now, but that was it. I don't know if I blacked out because I laid there in that fetal position and I did not get up until I heard my parents in the garage door opening downstairs. I don't know how much time went by. I was too scared. Imagine when all the senses on like all your hair.
I have chills right now. You telling me the story. Yes.
That was the freakiest thing. So when once in a while there's a scary movie that they depict something like that, I go, that's real. That's legit. Like I believe in that because I've seen it. So that's one of my things.
I have
so
to
when
say, I interviewed somebody else recently for this podcast, and they described the exact same thing you did. Shared her, and she did the same thing. She's like, I just closed my eyes and laid there and I prayed for it to go away. She said, eventually I opened my eyes and it was gone. But she described the very same black, like same thing. So
yeah,
that's real, ladies and gentlemen. That's real.
Real thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be afraid of them. You just, in that moment, your response is going to be whatever it is. And mine was a fight or flight. I just dropped. I just went limp and held myself and begged to live. And yet not all experiences are like that. Mm-hmm. There was another instance when I had a boyfriend who lived on a historical site that was actually historical. No one could ever change it. So they were allowed to live there. And it was over 100-year-old house where Native Americans had been buried and farmers had taken it over years later. And he's like, oh, this place is way haunted. And one day when our to-go order got messed up, he left. I was alone in the house in his room, and the blinds on the window, like the window was pushed on so hard that the blinds were shaking. Oh. And I got up and I went, oh yeah. And I just looked at the blinds and I'm like, that's what I thought. I was like, okay. So I was like coming from this empowered place where I'm no longer letting these things just be like, ha, like that's, they're trying to get you. And if they know they can get that, they're going to keep it.
Yeah. I have heard just from watching and speaking to other people that when you're dealing with something darker or lower vibrational, that your best recourse is to not exhibit fear, and that you should almost treat them like they're tricksters. Like, oh, are you a trickster? Like almost in that vein, rather than sinking into the fear, which is nearly impossible unless you have actual prior experience with dealing with something like this. All right. So I want to ask you this. What do you feel like the nature of our reality really is? What do you feel like we're doing here? Because I feel like we don't have our whole history, and that there is a lot more about being here that everybody should be aware of, that we're not really speaking of in any kind of mainstream kind of way.
Oh my gosh. So recently I did a 4-minute journey under the light. I do my best to do myself before I help anybody else at these fairs. And I had done a microdose that morning, and I just had this beautiful portal of this experience where I was like, okay, there's dragons, there's angels, and none of it looks like what people paint on paintings. And yet it's just its own very light, ethereal, beautiful experience. And I came back and I was giggling so hard. I was like, look, I'm about to eat a strawberry in quotations. I'm like, this isn't real. I'm like, all of that limitless potential, the light. And really what it came down to for me is love.
Yeah.
It always comes back to love.
Yeah.
I feel like life sets you up to be challenged on purpose to see, can you still love through all the trauma, through all the horrors? Can you still find the way to keep your light ignited where you can find ways to love yourself?
Yes.
To remember how to love yourself, because that's the only way to have that self-fulfilling, like filling up your cup is just remembering to keep the light lit inside yourself and love through all of the horrors. that comes up. Because, oh, you bet, if I've been assaulted, I've had horrible things come up.
Yeah.
And for me, the reality is remembering to love, because there's all these potential dimensions and versions of things that have happened where that didn't happen, where something else happened.
Yeah.
And I just have to remember that self-love journey is going to continue to be different and evolve.
Yeah.
Because I'm changing and my needs change as I'm still alive. So this vessel needs new things. It needs more sleep. It needs sleep at different times. It needs more meditation and maybe more frequently less time during it. But so it's changing. As long as you can change with it and remember you, then you're going to have something to give those around you. So it inspires them, hopefully, to realize that that's where it begins.
Yes.
Just the
I
origin.
love that. I love that. And I'm really focusing hard on trying to learn that on my own, that self-love component. I mean, like you said, everybody has their trauma. Everybody has come up with challenges. You don't come out of this completely intact. You're going to get some bumps and bruises along the way. It's inevitable. It's life on this planet. This last year of my life has been very challenging. I'm in the movie industry. We've been on strike. I haven't worked in a very long time. I'm in the middle of a financial crisis. And what it has taught me, because I am in a new paradigm in my life, is number one, to trust the universe that it will take care of me. I have fallen into money for no other reason, I believe, than me focusing every day on living in the now, living consciously, resonating at a higher vibration, and trusting that the universe is going to take care of me. And it is paying off in spades for me. And then normally I would be spinning in a anxiety-ridden tide pool of not being able to control my emotions because I am in sheer panic because, I am at the end of my money. I have till March and I'm done. I got to think about what else I can do in life. I've pulled money out of my pension. I've sold wedding ring. I've done it all. I've held on but I'm here and in the now, I'm fine. I am completely healthy. I'm content. I'm at peace and I swim in the now and I don't think about March and I just have the faith that I know the universe is going, if I continue to vibrate and align myself with higher frequencies, the universe is going to serve that back to me somehow. I don't know.
You just play playing with your mindfulness.
Yeah.
You have that.
Yeah.
And then just noticing what comes out.
Yeah.
Those words we speak into reality.
Yeah.
This picture we're painting.
Yeah.
That's why I call it spelling. We're casting spells. And all those little awarenesses helped me to be really clear. And then having the right friends around me who call me out when I say something that's keeping me where I am and stuck in a pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Won't break free because I go back to speaking a story. And guess what? My mind is so darn powerful, I can make it true. So that's been liberating.
It is.
Knowing that, I'm doing this to me and I can undo it because I can go after the positive end result instead of focusing on the crappy thing that just happened and laugh.
100%. It really has allowed me to live in less fear because I feel like I'm a co-creator of my reality. And so I am very conscious about the words I speak, spelling and thinking, because what you think on grows. And you're either going to grow something beautiful or you're going to grow something not so amazing, depending on what you're focusing your energy, your thoughts, and the nature of your energy and your thoughts is going to really reflect around your life. So I'm trying very desperately to stay as dark as it seems right now. I'm staying positive and I'm moving forward with knowing that I am going to be okay and I'm okay right now. And that's all that matters. We're coming up on an hour. One of the things that I do want to say to you before we go though, is from the very moment I met you or was in the room with you when I was just sitting amongst everybody else for the group session, you have a really great energy about you, and I really hope that you continue to bring your DMT light therapy and your energy to everyone because the world needs more of this. So thank you for coming on board with me and telling me about this type of technology because it could change everything, honestly. So how can people reach out to you? How can people get a hold of you to experience this for themselves?
I'd say my Instagram is the best place because I update that more frequently than my website, and my cell phone's on there. So people can just text
Oh,
me
great.
or send me a message on Instagram. That way, because there's usually some days before and after my fairs where I'm going to be in certain areas on my way to from state to state where I could see somebody in another
Oh,
location.
great.
That's the best way to find out. Ping me, be like, are you going to be in, and tell me what state you're in. I have all my flights booked months out.
Oh my God. What an amazing life you have. Flying around offering this amazing therapy to people. Sign me up. It's
I'm
amazing.
stubbornly committed to sharing my favorite things anywhere where people are ready to meet me.
Oh, I love it. Well, you and I will certainly be meeting again because I'm going to follow you and come see you and get another session. I thought it was beautiful and I'm all
I'm
in.
excited.
I'm all in. And I hope everybody out there,
Yeah.
I will put in the show notes Alysia's Instagram and her phone number. And if you want to reach out to her and figure out where she's going to be and what city, try to sit a session with her. You will not regret it for sure. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap it up and thank Alysia for her time. She was a wonderful guest. And I will see you again soon. Hopefully we can start, I love to be, a friend because I love your energy. I'm always looking for like-minded tribes. So I would be a part of
That
your
sister.
tribe any day, any day.
Together we win.
Yes. All right, guys.
Yes.
So everybody, that's a wrap on this episode. We will see you on the next episode of Faith. Alysia Marlow. Check her out on Instagram. Change your life. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. Alrighty. That was Light Alchemy with Alysia Marlow. I absolutely love her. I've actually been back to see her since we've recorded together. And please find her on Instagram. It's going to be in the show notes. Go ahead and subscribe and start following her. When she is coming into your area, go see her. Sit in front of that light. See what it brings. It is painless. It is not a scary experience, and it could bring you anything from a deeply mystical lifting the veil all the way to you could experience a healing of sorts, physically, emotionally. You never know what's going to happen and what insights sitting under this mystical light that she has will bring you. So I'm going to do it again. I love her. She is the best, and I hope to have her back on the show. Now, a little update where I am in the spiritual world of things is, so me and Alysia actually recorded this last November, and like I had said on the podcast, during that time I was out of work. I'm in the movie industry. I'm an assistant director, and we had been on strike for quite some time at that point, and it was extremely financially stressful, emotionally stressful. I was just watching my bank account dwindle away. And I really had a choice during that time of how to deal with that emotionally. And I had learned through going on this journey and opening my mind and starting to understand a little bit more about how the universe works, that if I stayed in a good vibration as far as living in gratitude, living in calm, speaking the words that I would like to have happen, I would constantly say, oh, I'm going back to work in February. I'm going back to work in February. I lived very much in the present moment. And in the present moment, I was fine. I had a roof over my head. I wasn't in collections. My bills weren't late. I had a choice. I could either be my old self and live in a pool of anxiety where I would have had many sleepless nights. I would have not been able to feel any joy, really. I would have walked around with like a pit in my stomach of a ball of fear that never would have left me. I would have just been swimming in free floating anxiety every single day, worrying about my bank account, when I was going to get work, what was going to happen to me. And instead, I decided to handle the situation in an entirely new way. I decided that I was going to solely live in the present, that I was going to only resonate with gratitude and love and joy, that I was going to only speak words that would bring me what I wanted to manifest, which was I was going back to work in February. I was going back to work in February. And I did that because March was really when I was going to end. My financial situation would have been where I would have had to have made some very hard choices. So I had a drop dead date. And so I would just say every day, I'm going back to work in February. I was not living in fear. I had zero fear. I knew I was going to be okay. I knew that I was going to get through this. I was not allowing anything to break me from resonating with joy, gratitude, creativity, love, happiness, contentment, peace. I didn't think about the future. I just knew that I was okay now, and that is all that mattered to me. And that's how I played it. It really was interesting. I would get random bouts of money that were weird, like, oh, I overpaid in my escrow last year. Here's a few $1,000s. Or I would get abnormally large residual checks, or money would just kind of come when I needed it. It was like the universe was like, okay, here you go. I even had a dear friend from high school that I hadn't talked to in decades send me a few $100s because she knew the strike was going on. And this is not somebody I talk to every day. This is somebody I've known since I was a child. But you never lose that connection or that love or that ability to reach out and say, hey, I love you. Here's some money. I hope you're okay. And the amount of gratitude that I had just from that act of kindness was overwhelming for me. I was beyond shocked and super grateful that that person would even think of me to even make that gesture, especially in as tight as everybody is these days with their finances. You know, giving a few $100s away because you love that person is not common now, right about now. Anyways, long story short, guys, I went back to work in February. I went back to work in February. And most of my colleagues are not working. The industry has not come back the way we all thought it would be after the strikes ended. And it's been very interesting, eye-opening, and revealing to me that going through that financial crisis, going through that extreme of anxiety-provoking lack of work, for almost a year, I didn't work. For almost a year. And being able to go through it with as little stress as I did, being happy and content, regardless of my circumstances, I would maintain as happy as I could be. Don't get me wrong, I had days where I would break and I would not be able to resonate with that higher vibration frequency. But it would pass, and I would get back on that horse, and I would say, I'm okay now, and I'm going back to work in February. And I would just think about all the beautiful things that I did have in my life. My family, my friends. I live in a beautiful area. I love my dog. I have lots of gifts in my life. And there was nothing that was going to make me feel that the universe would not come through for me if I was serving up the vibration in which the universe would mirror. I really truly believe we are like mirrors, and our emotional makeup and our belief system and how we feel and think, that is what's going to show up in your reality. That is what the universe is going to serve up back to you. And quite frankly, guys, it worked. I don't know how else to explain it other than I went back to work in February. I have been super grateful to be working. It's very challenging to try and do this podcast while I'm working, because if you know about the movie industry, you're working incredibly long hours, and I'm doing a very challenging show right now. So my time is short, and I'm running out of podcasts that I've had in the can because I recorded most of them when I was not working. So it's going to be a challenge for me to continue doing this and be able to do my job. But I'm determined to keep this going. I've really been enjoying the process. It's creative. I find it's important things that I'm talking about, and it sings to me. So I'm going to keep singing back. Anyways, that is a wrap on this show, guys. My insight will keep coming. I'm going to have amazing guests coming up for you. And if you want to follow the show, I'm on Instagram at F.A.T.E podcast, F.A.T.E podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I've been out a month. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not marketing it a ton, but I do think the podcasts are interesting and will challenge you and will maybe, allow you to open your mind a little bit and embrace a new perspective, like resonating at a higher frequency, so you can see that in your life show up. It's not going to show up tomorrow, but if you consistently be conscious of the way you're thinking, what words you're speaking, and how you react when negative things come into your reality, I believe that is the key to manifesting whatever you want in life, whether it be health, a healthy relationship, or just a feeling of being happy and content and at peace, knowing that if you resonate with those frequencies, the universe has no other choice, really. The law of attraction, like will bring like. And that is one of the universal laws that we are under. And it's kind of a life hack in a way, because I don't know, maybe it's coincidence I'm working, but about 40% of my industry is not. And I've never been more grateful and more blessed. So try it at home, folks. It takes time. It really does take time to start to understand that you have more power than you think you do about what is showing up in your own reality. And if you start practicing, manifesting, and living in the now and living in the moment and feeling that deep sense of joy and love, I guarantee you things will start shifting. And once you see shifting happening, you'll start wanting to pursue this way of being, because it will open up and it will allow things to flow better in your life. I truly believe that. Truly believe that. That is the direction I'm going in here, folks. Anyways, next week on F.A.T.E, from Atheism to Enlightenment, I am bringing you Yuri. It's called Healing with Yuri. She is a spiritual intuitive. She has her own journey that she's going to tell us all about. I can't wait to bring it to you. And until then, guys, we'll see you next week. Journey well, everyone.